Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people,
which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you, and we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Well, welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast. And for many of you, welcome back. Today is one of my favorite style of episodes. It is a community huddle episode. And I love that term because I love community and I love sports. So I feel like the huddle is the image that I have of us moms linking arms, literally gathering around in a circle and being like, okay, guys, what do we do? What's our next play? What do we do to make all this work and to actually have it work for ourselves and for our families and for all that we care about? So that's what this episode is about. And because this episode's coming out, I think it's December 20th, I was like, I don't want to throw anything real complex or new to my community. Let's talk about Christmas. Let's talk about what's on our minds and like what's coming up. And I know that everybody doesn't celebrate Christmas, but there's a season, right? Everybody's out of school. There's a lot going on. Even people have different relationships to the actual holiday of Christmas. The essential question that we're going to kind of discuss and address today in this community is, given the unique challenges that we have, we're going to go over those. What do we want to create? What do we want to create in this season? And how will we do it? And so clearly we're not going to have, a prescription to follow, but I think the idea is that I want everyone to walk away from this episode inspired, maybe even a little ignited of, oh yeah, like I didn't think I could do that. Didn't think of this idea. And going to be a little bit of a brainstorm, but also really connecting that you're not alone if you're experiencing some of these common situations that we find ourselves in as mothers of our children. With the idea of Huddle, I actually have a number of guests here. And so I'm going to give a minute to introduce everybody, and then we'll get into all of the many questions that we're going to look at today. All right. We're going to do some introductions. We're going to go simple, and I'm going to ask everybody to share their name, the location. I think it's fun to kind of see the span of which we're talking from, and then a really quick snippet about maybe age and type of disabilities. Just give us a picture of what is it that your disability looks like as it relates to you parenting and living and some of the struggles you may have. All right, let's start. Brooke, will you introduce yourself first?
Yes, my name's Brooke. I live in San Diego and I have one child. She's 13 and she was recently diagnosed with a very rare genetic condition that we're still trying to process and learn about. But the way that kind of manifests in her life is autism, intellectual disability. She's nonverbal. So that's my daughter.
Thanks so much for being here again. All right, Erica.
Hi, I am Erica, and I live in very rural Washington State. Very, very rural. I have 3 kids. My son Jack is my middle kiddo. He's 5, and he has a very rare genetic syndrome called Williams syndrome. We did not know about it when he was born, but we found out when he was about 2.5. That disability for us is, well, it's an intellectual disability. He has a lot of developmental delays. He's also incredibly social. So I'm sure as we'll discuss the holidays, while there can be some challenges, it's also quite fun to see his level of excitement and engagement for all of the holiday parties and things.
Thanks for mentioning that detail, because I think it is very applicable, as I mentioned, like for how our children's disabilities kind of engage with all that is holiday. All right, Francesca, will you go next?
Hello, my name's Francesca. I live in very rural Maine, so
I love it.
Outside of the States. Yeah, so we're in Mount Chase, Maine. It's very, very northern, very rural. I have a 4-year-old little girl. She just turned 4. She has a cerebral palsy and epilepsy secondary to a brain structure abnormality with a very, very long name, so I won't put you guys through that. But that is my daughter. She's my only child.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. And Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. We live in Northern California in the Sacramento area. And we also have one child, my daughter, Audrey. She's turning 9 next month. She has a very rare genetic condition, which causes a global delay. She too is nonverbal and also gets very excited for holidays, but in probably a very different way than Erica described. So that is a big challenge for us. So I'm sure we'll get into some of that.
Yes, we will. And I realize I always forget to reintroduce myself. I always assume everybody knows all the things, and I realize you probably don't. And so I parent 4 children, ages 6 to 16, and Levi is my child who puts me in the category of special needs mom. He's a survivor of multiple brain tumors. And so I think it's interesting, that it's like a little rare to have many acquired disabilities. And so his disabilities are all brain-based and range from hemiplegia, which is a physical disability, to visual impairment, to medical complexities that have to do with not having a pituitary. It's called panhypopituitarism. Long names. We all have these like spelling quizzes every day when we fill out forms, right? And the thing I want to mention here is he also has a condition called hyperphagia, which is simplistically described as a increased appetite. So he's going to have food-seeking behaviors that fall way outside of anything you probably have ever seen. And it even surprises me to the point that I see it. So in our home, we have all of our food locked. Or I should say we have most of our food locked because we just got a new refrigerator, which has caused us some challenges in getting the new locks in place. And so I'm sure as y'all think about holidays, I think the 2 things that as I was preparing for this episode came to mind. I'm like, what are the big things? I'm like, you know what? It's the 2 G's. It's gatherings and gifts. It's more than that. And God, I'll add God. That's for me. That's not for everybody. But gatherings, right? And so there's so much as it relates when we have children that fall outside of the typical society's norms. The gatherings present so many different challenges. So thank you all for introducing yourself. The first question, before we get into some of these challenges that we're going to go through some of the common ones, I want us actually each to contemplate this question. And really, ultimately, it's what is really important for us this season? I'm going to ask all of us to unfocus our eyes on our children and to refocus them on ourselves. Like, what is it that you want to experience? You know, we all watch the Christmas movies and there's this idea of magic out there and maybe some ideals. But when you really sit and think about it, as we're recording this, it's December 12th. And so we're in it. So what is it? What comes up for you when you think about what do you want for this season? Francesca, go ahead.
So I think one of the things that I love to focus on and try to make my ultimate goal for the entire season is just calm and peaceful. Like, I love to be relaxed this time of year. Where we live, the days are a lot shorter, so it's getting dark around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and the sun comes up a little bit later in the morning. And so I like to just take this whole time to just really focus on just being in the home, being calm, doing our little things, trying to take off some of the things that are typically on our plate. So a lot of appointments and therapies and things like that, we kind of draw back in a little bit. We cancel or we reschedule so that it's not quite as frequent. And we just try to all be together and just make it a lot of time about reading and watching Christmas movies and things like that. And just kind of being calm and relaxed at home and not a lot of, chaos that is the typical day-to-day kind of thing.
Totally, right? Which is funny because you don't picture holidays I'm picturing common movies of the hustle and bustle of scrambling around. That's not exactly it. So I love that you have identified that. And actually, that's when I was thinking about this question for myself. I didn't necessarily have those words, but I think that is identifying. For me, it's this break from norm. And it's stepping outside to do things I wouldn't ordinarily do. I do more baking, or at least I want to do more baking. I think that slowness and calm, I think, is really touching into what I desire in this season. And I think for me, I'll add, and there is this piece of togetherness. There is a huge value of gathering with all different groups of people during this season that to me makes it really special. And it's what I really love. Brooke, go ahead.
I think what I want for me is to feel included. And, I guess to say what you also said, that feeling of togetherness. I want to just feel like I am part of a family. I'm sure with all of us, Christmas looks different, but with the holidays, it does tend to get a little more emotional and, isolating. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm wanting to feel this year is that we are not forgotten because it looks different.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think for me, I would like most to be present at the things we are doing, regardless of if it's parties or, just family time, or specifically home time for me, and to not worry about the future of things or maybe what we're not getting to do. So just being present.
That last thing you put in there, I think it's such a good little point of it's not the things we're not getting to do. Nice. And Erica, did you have anything?
Yeah, for me, kind of what Brooke said, to feel included. And I have to give a shout out to my friends. We've done 4 years in a row now, getting together to do a girls' Christmas. And we just did that this last weekend. And that is I think has become one of the most important parts of the holidays, especially before it all really gets crazy, is spending that time with my girlfriends. And of course, I have to give a shout out to our husbands too, because they hold down the fort at home. And that wasn't always very easy. But I just think that doing something for ourselves too, not taking ourselves out of the equation we need to experience togetherness. We need to experience the magic of the season as well, and not be the ones that create the magic. We're worthy of that too. And whether that's doing something with your girlfriends or something completely different, I think it's really important to remember that we need to have a full cup going into the season. And that may look different for each of us, but that's been something that I've done now for the last 4 years. Jack is 5. And so for the most, most of the time that he's been alive, I've been having these day-long Christmas parties, we exchange gifts, we make dinner together, and it has just become something that really kind of charges my batteries going into the season. I really, really look forward to it. And I think it's important that we all recognize that we need to do that for ourselves.
You had me at day long. I didn't catch that at first, that this was a day long party. And I was like,
it totally is.
There you go. That's what we're talking about. And I'm like, is it too late to start planning something like that? I don't think so.
No.
I think I could pull it off.
You've got time, Kara.
Thank you. It actually makes me think of, there's a group of friends from high school that I still get together with every year. And we're getting together this Thursday. I'm so excited. And we don't always exchange gifts. It's very informal, but I'm like, I really want to get something this year. So note to self, go do that right now. Thank you all for sharing. And I think it's so important to ask ourselves and answer that question ahead of time, because this happens all the time. And no matter what context I'm meeting and working with people in, we tend to jump ahead to the how and get stuck on the how before we even identify and get clear on what. Like, what is it that we want? What do we want to create? And so we kind of have a little bit more clarity now of what do we want? And so now we're going to kind of shift into the how, and we're going to look through the lens of some of the common challenges. And so we're going to start with food issues. And somebody put the idea in here. There's a lot of spectrums here. So in some cases, kids don't eat at all, being that they're G-tube fed or another way fed. And so it's kind of awkward to go to like a restaurant and not eat, or this is the experience that has been shared with me. And I shared a little bit earlier about food management is like a whole category in our house. And parties are really hard, like really, really hard, because my son can actually become quite physical if something comes between him and his food that he really wants. So really takes a lot of what I call offense, like being really proactive to win that game. And, we lose that game most of the time, it seems like. What do you guys experience, if anything? You don't have to share in this category if it's not an issue for you, when it comes to like food issues as it relates to this holiday experience. Go ahead, Brooke.
So Lily has eaten the same exact thing probably since she was like 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She's now 13. So her diet is very limited. We traveled for Thanksgiving this year. Christmas will be at our house this year. We don't have, I guess, maybe some of like those deeper struggles of, say, like G-tube fed, but always making sure that she has what she needs to eat, even if that means bringing food somewhere else. Something that I struggle with is holiday meal times lining up with when Lily eats, because it makes me feel sad when, like if Thanksgiving's at 3, Lily doesn't eat at 3. So I want her to be included in the meal, but it's not when she eats. Or, like at Thanksgiving, it was a weird time and she was eating popcorn, and I was just so happy that she was sitting there eating with us. But that's really kind of where that resonates with me, is just like making sure that we have exactly what she wants to eat, and timing. I want her to be included. So sometimes that gets rough when we have these big meals that are not at normal times.
Is it safe to assume that if she's not eating, she's not interested in being at the table in any capacity?
Yeah. Even when she does eat, it's like she's kind of, we call her like a grazer. Like she'll eat some and then leave, and then she'll come back and eat some. It's like she doesn't sit down and eat a full meal like all in one sitting. So I guess when we're around people that are very close with us, they understand that. But being around maybe more extended family, and they're like, oh, she still eats the same food, like those kinds of comments, we just have to like field it and like, yeah, she still eats the same food, and I think sometimes like the holidays kind of put a spotlight on the differences. Even when you're with your family, it's like, oh yeah, like, yeah, she still eats the same food she ate 10 years ago, or no, she doesn't want to sit down at the table and eat with us. That's kind of where our struggles are with food.
It's just like there's certain things I think people have such a hard time understanding. The idea that she's still enjoying the same foods that she did when she was 3. Or in my case, like I think it's even, and I kind of have to own it myself. Like even for me, I see it every day. It's incomprehensible to think about the things that my son does with food. Like it just in my human brain I have a really hard time keeping it. Like actually that this is the reality that we live in. So I think that can be helpful to offer other people like compassion, like, okay, like it is really hard to get, but then also offer ourselves, I don't know what it would be, but to just acknowledge like it's really hard to have people really not understand like really what it's like of, even a little comment of like, she's still eating that. Yeah, she is, like that's, yep. Rachel?
Yeah, I have a very similar experience that Brooke just said. And then we also have the physical mobility piece of it as well. So if my daughter is going to eat with us, I have to have something for her to sit in that is appropriate, which is getting hard as she gets bigger. She can't graze because she's not independent walking. And so she would probably prefer to do that, but we have to pretty much sit her in something strapped, and it's a whole thing. We also have the time issue that was brought up as well. Audrey very much eats on a schedule. I find myself trying to plan around the event. So I always feed her before the event, or plan to do it after, and both in between. And then if there's like a dessert or, a snack that she can have there, I'll attempt that. But that makes the seating issue even harder. So depending on where we go, we're very secluded, and she can't be by herself. So either myself or my husband, literally physically, is removed from the table as well. So not only does she not get to experience the togetherness, but we don't either. And that's something that I've had to let go on like the emotional side of, because Audrey doesn't care that she's not eating at that moment or, what that food is. But I do. I grew up, my mom is full Italian. I grew up very traditionally, like, family dinners and big holiday meals, and food is, definitely social gathering for my family. And so that's been really a big challenge for us. And then I always have to bring, even if I know where we're going and there's a chance that there might be something there she can have, I always have at least her preferred snacks, if not an entire meal with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely. I'm picturing, as describing the Italian kind of food experience, and I don't know that personally, but I just have this visualization of like a long, prolonged, really enjoyable, relaxing meal, and that is kind of the entertainment of the night, if you will, because most of the people sit around and talk and enjoy and all those things, and like that model just does not work for our children. Therefore, it doesn't work for us. And so, Erica, were you going to share something on the food topic?
Yeah, we're very similar to what some of the other ladies have said. Jack doesn't eat very much, and unfortunately, the foods he will eat is becoming less and less. He's getting pickier the older he gets, and like Brooke said, he kind of eats the same thing all the time. And right now, food is a big part of our life because he's in school, and we're working with the school on what he'll eat. He's not eating things at school that he would normally eat at home. For the holidays, it's a lot of planning ahead for just Jack's menu alone, like the other ladies have talked about. And I love to bake and cook around the holidays. And every time we go somewhere, I spend a ton of time planning ahead. And it's just one more thing that I have to do that makes that enjoyable activity stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love baking and cooking and coming up with all this stuff. But then I also have to cook ahead of time for just Jack alone. He's not going to eat what we have there. And somebody might say, oh, well, won't he have ham? No, he'll have ham if it's on a frozen pizza, but he won't have ham. And so it becomes just another layer of something that we have to do ahead of time. And the other piece that can be really difficult is Jack has ADHD, and he will not focus on more than one thing. And usually whatever's the most exciting and entertaining thing will take his attention. And so even if he's hungry, even if it's time to sit down and eat, and I know he's hungry, if there's something else he'd rather do, if there's an activity or a toy or something on the TV, he will not sit and eat. And he won't eat until he is so hungry that it's time for him to have a meltdown. So just knowing that is coming, and we have 2 other kids that we're trying to kind of shuffle between, it just makes for potentially a really stressful environment for my husband and I. And then he's going to have a meltdown, and we also have 2 other kids to handle too. So the whole eating, the whole food thing is just such a big part of our lives right now. And I think the holidays just kind of make it worse, or it can, I think there's ways around it, but it definitely has a potential to be something that just adds so much stress.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly.
So now we're going to turn to like, okay, so here is this challenge that we have, that food is interwoven into celebrations at holidays. And yet it doesn't work for our children in the way that it works for other people. So I guess the question is, what do we say? What are ideas that we would say, again, from this offense, or kind of proactive, I guess is a better word for it, like proactive, like, okay, like given that X, Y, and Z doesn't work, and I want to be included, to be present, to have this sense of peace and calm, what do I see? Like, what could move me towards that? And so I'll open it to y'all to see what comes to your minds. And or also what has worked for you, like things that you have found to work. Please share those as well. Go ahead, Rachel.
The things that have worked is lowering like my expectation of her basically like needing to be at the table and bringing anything that I know that she will eat depending on the time. It's hard for us because we can't just, because of her limitations physically, we can't, hand her a granola bar on the drive home. And because she hasn't eaten much, and she's hungry, we can't do that. She can't eat alone in the car. She can't eat alone ever. And so I get a lot of comments from people, like friends over the years that, everyone in the holidays, kids are running around, they've eaten nothing but chocolate on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah, my kid too. Same. Like they've only eaten chocolate. And I'm like, it's not the same. My kid, the only, like, if she did eat chocolate, I like force hand fed like her like a tiny bit, and actually Audrey loves chocolate, but she would have to be like sitting in a seat and it would have to be it couldn't be on something that she didn't recognize. It couldn't, all these things. So kind of tricky when you get people and they're trying to relate to you, but it's not the same. It's not that I'm worried that like my kid can go without one meal. Sure. Like everyone can, but no, she's on a routine. She eats at a certain time. Same thing with Erica, like Audrey's blood pressure kind of like we can notice, the highs and lows when we don't feed her in that time scheme. The thing that I'm trying this year, so to be determined if it's going to work, is we're hosting Christmas Eve here for my in-law side. And I did it at a time that is not a meal. We're just doing heavy hors d'oeuvres. And so it's like starting at 2 p.m. And so like I can feed Audrey her normal lunch before. And I think that people will be leaving by the time I need to feed her dinner. And so if she eats anything when they're here, a snack or a treat or whatever, that's fine. But I'm not even planning on that at all.
Brilliant. I love that. Plus, a lot easier to host. So there's a double win. I'm thinking about, okay, like I said earlier, like the entertainment often is like the mealtime, people sitting and eating. I suppose like people conversing around appetizers is very similar. Is that kind of what you envision for the gathering?
Yeah, I do. And we're doing some, like I said, like heavy appetizers. So there will be some, some things that are more substantial, but I'm telling myself and I'm envisioning like if she's happy being with the cousins and everything in our main rooms, that's fine. But I'm fully intending to at some point during the time she'll be in either her room or the playroom alone with like a tablet that we can just like check on her intermittently, especially when it gets too hard. I think we're going to get into gifts, maybe a little bit too. And there's something that goes along with that as well. So.
I love the intentionality that you've brought to this. So well done. And having my little brain start to turn and be like, oh, okay, like good idea. I see what you did there. Who else would share in the category of kind of what you're thinking about trying or what might work or how we can close this gap between the challenge and what we want?
Something that has worked for us with Jack, especially now that we have 3 kids, my husband and I are outnumbered, is allowing people to come in and help. I mentioned this earlier, Jack loves everybody. Nobody's a stranger. So even at bigger events where there's extended family and somebody offers to sit with him while he eats, even if he's only eating chips, I let him do it. He doesn't have some of the other issues that like some of the others have talked about as far as eating. He can feed himself. And I've really tried to let go of a lot of my expectations. He's going to graze all day and he might only eat chips, and then I'll bring him a bunch of food that I've prepared ahead of time, like some frozen pizza that we can warm up in somebody's microwave. And I've also just tried to find some peace in that he's going to eat when he needs to eat. And if we're headed for a meltdown, then my husband and I are, going to handle that. We might talk about that later. And sometimes things don't go the way that we hope that they would, but ultimately I've just tried to allow Jack to experience the day in the way that he's going to, instead of forcing him to sit and eat and then go play like all the other kids are going to do. He might be playing while the other kids are eating. That's often the case. And for a long time, it was so frustrating to say, Jack, come sit down. Please come sit down. It is not playtime. You have to sit at the table. That in itself caused a giant scene. And I've just my husband and I have just let go of that. He's going to do what he's going to do. He'll eat when he eats. And even if it doesn't look the right way to other people, I don't have capacity to care about that anymore. And it's just allowed me to have a lot more peace about the whole situation.
I love it. It's like instead of asking Jack to conform to the day, you're having the day conform to Jack. And I think it's really flipping the model. And yes, we have to learn to let other people's thoughts about that come and go, because it's, you know, those aren't really helpful to our situation. Brooke, were you going to share something?
I relate a lot to what Erica's saying. It's just kind of like, this is what works for Lily. And I don't really have the capacity to care what other people think of that anymore. That's a lot of mental exercise for me, though, you know, is to kind of just shut out comments, you know, shut out the pressure and just let it be what it is. And it's really draining. But I find that when we do just that, just let her do what she's going to do, you know, if she's going to be in the other room when we're all eating, that's not what I would have wanted, but she's happy, which means I can be present and enjoy the time rather than trying to force a situation that's just going to make everyone upset. So.
Totally. And it's interesting because, again, like I have like this opposite problem of it's actually the too much food and too much eating that is the challenge for us. And it's interesting because it's been kind of a moving target because we had some medications that were helping. They're not currently available. So one of the things I'm doing is praying that that becomes available because that would be a game changer. Probably not in enough time, but one of my friends, Jessica Pate, many of you know her. She's amazing. We are Brave Together. Go check it out. A free, amazing organization. And her son also has hyperphagia. She has shared with me that they have very clear and distinct eating times. So like there's food out where she's able to really manage it at a high level. And then she puts everything away. And this is one of the reasons why she prefers to host at her house, because she has a little bit higher degree of ability to do that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe that's what we need to do this year. Because again, like last year, it looked a little bit different than it does this year. And I'm thinking that will allow myself and my husband to actually just be able to rest for the times that we're not managing the mealtime. Because it is like you have to have a very high level of vigilance, because it is amazing how well Levi's executive function system works when there's food involved. I'm like, where is this the rest of the time? Because his ability to plan and execute is remarkable. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to have to actually really decide ahead of time when our food windows and go all in and manage that to a high degree, and then really be clear and have those boundaries for myself, and that will help the whole family. Okay, let's move on to a different area, and this is activities and festivities. So like going out to parties or to like, I don't know, the classic, I go sit on Santa's lap, if people even do that anymore. And Erica, I think you had brought this up. Okay, like we're somewhere, our kid's clearly not conforming or needs more attention. Like, how do we handle this? And so I guess I'll just highlight some of the common issues. You guys can add in anything that you think I've missed. Firstly, I think one of the challenges can be is not participating in activities that you'd want to do, like your other children would want to do, but like this particular child, not interested. And obviously some of you have only one child, but I think this could apply to like your wider family of what they want to do and other people don't. And this is something where my husband and I are still figuring out 14 years in is how do we both have a good time at a party and manage our son at the same time? Like we don't do very well like sharing the load, because it's either like, well, usually it's nobody, like we both get distracted and then it's just not good. And then setting boundaries with family and like actually being clear about what works and what doesn't work. So what other issues when it comes up with activities and festivities did I not mention that you might want to add? Go ahead, Brooke.
So I struggle with when we're hosting, we kind of discussed like, you know, the kids are out of school, that whole thing. When Lily's out of school, which I'm sure is very relatable to most people, her routine is so off. Mm-hmm. And when we have people coming into town and they're going to be here for many, many days, it's like, what are we going to do? Because I know with Lily, like, we can't just sit home and chat all day. Like, I would love to just sit and chat and catch up. Nope, that doesn't work. We have to keep her busy, get her out of the house, do things, and for us, like, I know Rachel, like, will relate to this so much. Lily likes to do very specific things. We do them all the time, and we've just accepted that that's what it is. That may not necessarily be fun for other people. And so I have to kind of process, how are we going to, like, entertain these people that are coming to visit us in a way that works for Lily, but is also fun and engaging for them when she's already overstimulated, because there's so many people here and we're out of routine. It's so much. And it makes it really difficult to look forward to going into the holiday season, because all of that feels so stressful to me. I want to go and do these typical, like, Christmassy things. I want to go experience those for my own self. I want to experience those with my daughter. She doesn't care one way or the other. I want to experience those with my family, but this year in particular, I'm really struggling with, like, how do I make all of this make sense in a way that works for Lily, for me, my husband, my parents, everybody. And it's hard.
Especially when the value that you're connecting to is, like, to feel included. Right. So I
Yeah.
can see why you're like, there's some tension, because it feels like, to me, like, included feels like together. And so maybe that's where to continue pondering of, like, how can I be included if I'm not together? Is there a possibility there? And I know that we'll answer that right now in this moment, but something to really kind of think about, like, what that would look like. Anything else that I missed that to add to kind of a challenge list of activities and festivities? Oh, go ahead, Francesca.
So Emery's got developmental delays. So all of the preschool kids that are her age are at the different festivities. They're coloring ornaments and they're decorating cookies and they're doing all of these things that she's nowhere near doing yet. Or they're running around and playing. They're playing games and she's not physically, mobile yet on her own. So I think that what I try to do is obviously have very low expectations and just kind of sit her down, give her the opportunity to hold a crayon and make one quick squiggle or take a bite of the cookie. Don't worry about decorating it, or, things like that, so that I'm giving her the opportunity to be involved and participate, but I'm not expecting her to be Picasso, So I think that helps me just feel the joy and the magic of her being involved, even though I know that she's not going to do what the other kids are doing. So that, along with, if she is getting overstimulated and we need to just go sit in the truck for a little bit and just have some quiet time, because she loves riding in the truck. She loves her alone time, like alone quiet time. So giving her breaks and just not expecting her to be at the 4-hour party and be, active and social and engaged the whole time. Either give her breaks or after an hour, call it a day and say, hey, we came out, we did the Christmas festivities, and we're going to go home now. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for the invite, that sort of thing. That kind of helps me just be able to enjoy it, but not be stressed out about it either, and not put high expectations or standards on the events. And then on the flip side, when I'm hosting, which I do love to host, like some of the ladies mentioned, I love baking, I love cooking, I love hosting, I love decorating, I love all the things, especially this time of year. Recently, we actually had her birthday party. It's at the end of November, but I moved it into December so we could have like a Christmas themed birthday party. Yeah, so we had all of the preschool, like homeschool kids, all her age come. We had 9 or 10 kids, I think, here. And so what I tried to do was make things that I knew were enjoyable for her, make those a part of it, but also know that when we're playing pin the nose on the snowman, or when we're doing the candy cane hunt or something like that, that she's not going to participate in that. That's more for the other kids, but it still gives me the opportunity to make other people happy, but bring her back in, or give her breaks and bring her back in and give her breaks as needed throughout the day. So
so much good there. And I love that you identified that there's some things that you'll do just to make you happy, like the candy cane race or whatever you mentioned, like that you can accept that this isn't for her, as you don't think she's going to enjoy it, but let you enjoy giving the gift of this enjoyment to the other kids. I want to highlight just what you modeled in what you shared earlier about like this essentially setting your expectations in a way that's looking through the lens of what actually works for my daughter. And that over here, it's like it seems like you've balanced this tension between like giving her the opportunity, but not expecting. And I think that takes a very high level of acceptance, which it's beautiful. And I think, again, really great to kind of notice, okay, interesting. Like you accept that she probably won't participate in the way that other kids will. And you want to give her the opportunity to make her squiggle or to do what she can do to be included and to participate. And like, you're just very flexible about it. So thank you for sharing and kind of giving us those visualizations of those actual tangible, what it looks like in your world. I think, Erica, you were going to share something.
Yes. When it comes to gatherings, I mean, Carrie, you listed everything. I would say that for us, depending on the gathering, it can be something really that we're very comfortable with. We could be going to my grandma's house, and he's very comfortable with that house. He knows that house very well, and we can let him do his thing and play. Or we might be going to, say, a Christmas program at the church or at the school, and everybody's expected to sit down for a long period of time. And that is going to be potentially a disaster. We had that experience last Christmas. Jack was in preschool, so he wasn't in the elementary school yet. My older son was in first grade, and he was participating in the Christmas program. And it was not a good experience. We tried so hard to sit in the stands with Jack, and I was trying to hold him still and still take in the Christmas program that my son was participating in.
I'm laughing because I'm picturing you trying to enjoy this like festive Christmas, beautiful child thing while you're wrangling a child as well. Sorry. You nailed the visual there. Okay.
Let me just say that wearing a turtleneck sweater was not a good idea. I was sweating. And my husband had my daughter, who is barely one at the time. So, he had the easy one. And I was sitting there trying to fake a smile as I'm like hanging on to Jack. And the Christmas program ends, and they had Santa visiting, and they had fake presents. And he doesn't understand that they're not real presents. They're not for him. And he's overstimulated. He's excited. There's so many people. It's like he can't contain himself. So we had to promptly leave with him. He was so overstimulated. He was having a giant meltdown, and publicly. And my oldest was so disappointed because we didn't get to stay. He didn't get to get a cookie. He didn't get to say hi to his friends. There was lighted vehicles outside. I don't remember, but we had to go, and it wasn't fair to my oldest. And that's probably the hardest part, is trying to navigate what can we do as a family when I have Jack, who probably can't handle a lot of things in certain gatherings, especially anything public, anything where there's a lot of sitting. We have to think about, who are my parents going to be there to help us? Because now that we have 3 kids, what if we want to stay? Is somebody able to peel off with Jack, or do one of us have to go, or do we all have to go? And how do I make Christmas inclusively magical for everybody, like all of my kids? Because it's not fair to Jack to put him in a situation like that, where it's not fair to Everett, my other son, to have to leave early all the time and to not get to do the activity. I think that's one of our biggest struggles, is how do we navigate that? And something we have learned to do is to be okay when my dad might come up to me and say, and we live really close to my parents, can I take Jack from you? Can I take him home? Or can I take him over here? Or can I walk around with him? And to say, yes, please, that's fine. It's okay to accept help. And then sometimes it's okay if I have to leave early, or if my husband has to leave early. It's not going to look the way I wanted it to, but to try and make it a good situation for everybody just takes some sacrifice to make it work.
Yeah, definitely. Erica, have you had to do that event from last year over again?
No turtleneck, V-neck all the way. My dad and mom did say afterwards, they said, I really wish that we had just offered to take him off your hands. I think I would have planned ahead with a backup plan and then a backup plan to the backup plan. You know, it was really important for my husband and I to get to watch our son in his very first Christmas program, you know, singing his songs with his class. And while, yes, my parents would love to do that too, they got to sit through my Christmas program and my brother's Christmas program. And so saying, hey, if Jack ends up having a meltdown, would you be able to take him? And if that doesn't work, one of us is going to go and the other one's going to record it. You know, I just didn't think that he would act that way. And of course, this is coming off of like the pandemic when we hadn't really done a lot of public stuff. He got diagnosed during the pandemic and was still a very young toddler. And so a lot of these things that he's doing, we hadn't just experienced yet. And so I would plan so much better and have like 3 different backup plans going into an event like that.
We're seeing a common theme of a lot of planning, a lot of anticipation, or anticipating, and I'd say a high level of acceptance. Because I think if we don't accept, I'll use myself as an example with this food thing. If I don't accept that, hey, my reality is that we can't have like food out, otherwise it will be consumed in a way that's not safe or healthy. It's hard to accept, man. I don't want it to be that way. And so there's these parts where I think we're all still in our journey of acceptance. And that is really critical to be able to then go on to plan. Any other things that anyone wants to share in this category before we move on to challenges with gifts?
I just have to say, Erica, I was cracking up when you were talking about the turtleneck. I am always sweaty at family functions because I'm just chasing Audrey around and like it's up and down, changing her diaper. Like it's just a nightmare. And so this Thanksgiving, it was cold and I wore a short sleeve blouse, like no joke. And my husband was like, "Are you sure you want to wear that?" I'm like, "I'm dead sure that I'm going to wear that." And I was not hot and it was great. So yes.
So all of Tara's listeners should basically take away from this entire episode, don't over layer your clothing. Wear something to stay cool in. It's the main takeaway.
Well, Brooke and I, as San Diegans, know the key here, because it can go from like 40 degrees to like, I mean, this happens a lot of places, right? But like layers are key here. So now we know that the wardrobe necessities of a special needs mom are layers. That's so funny. Anybody else I want to make sure I didn't miss any comments. Okay, let's talk briefly. We won't spend a lot of time here, but let's look a little bit at gifts. I think, so I have 4 kids. So some of them have so many interests. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's funnel them down a little bit. Like it's amazing. Like it brings me so much joy and I love it. And he's very easy to buy for, which is lovely. If only I had all the dollars that he needed, to buy all those gifts. Actually, not just Levi, but other kids have less interests. Levi's increasingly so though. And so when it's like, we do Santa. And so like, when all the kids are going to have presents under the tree and I still have a believer in my daughter in Santa because she's only 6, it's challenging, right? Because like when all the things my son wants are a list of things he's wanted for like the last 2 years that like he already has and he doesn't need and like we know he won't use. Or the things that actually would be great gifts for him, like we haven't figured out how to manage him safely, i.e. electronics. He's like such a whiz at hacking through all the protections, like the things that he loves, like an iPad or computer. Like we don't want to set ourselves up for that. So it presents a little bit of a challenge. And so I would love to hear even just what your experiences are with the idea of gifts and your children, what it brings up for you. Brooke.
What gifts brings up for me is I think that I went through a lot of years of grieving gifts because Lily's interests are so limited and stuck in where she's at developmentally, not where she's at chronologically. And you can only buy so many puzzles or books or marbles or balls. And at 13 years old, it's like, man, I had this moment a few weeks ago. I was at Target and I was starting to think of Christmas. And I said, we never grew out of the baby toy aisle. And most likely we never will. And that was somebody just like took the wind out of me in that store. And that's something I've grieved. But I can accept that. It gets difficult when other people are like, oh, what should I get Lily? I don't even know what to get Lily at this point because she has everything she needs or wants. The most frustrating gift that Lily receives at this point is food.
Oh, who gives your daughter
Lily,
food?
Lily does not have the condition you were speaking of.
Hyperphagia. Yeah.
However, she does take a medication that has a very big side effect of increased appetite.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying that I understand what you're going through by any stretch, but I do get a little bit of how much of a struggle that is. And you're trying to manage, you don't need to eat. And then the weight stuff becomes a concern and all of the things that go with that. So when people give my daughter a family size pack of double stuffed Oreos because they know that she loves those, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hard. I'm trying to manage that. I know they don't know what to give her. It's just a mess. So I really have to just keep myself in check this time of year with gifts, birthdays, Christmas. It's a struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Anybody else have any comments here? Go ahead, Rachel.
We have the added bonus of Audrey's birthday is the second week of January.
Oh, nice.
So we have Christmas. Yeah, we have Christmas and her birthday. And it's the same, exactly every single thing Brooke just said. Minus, we do have the food stuff too. We get a lot of that, but she can't eat on her own. So I can manage it. So it's if she gets the full pack of Oreos or whatever, I can keep them in the cupboard, and I'm more worried about me actually eating them than she is, to be honest. Yeah, it's the other people, just like what Brooke said. So I went through so many years, and it hits me like it did every once in a while. I have a younger niece, and I go crazy with her gifts because it's so fun. And she's the only girl, and we have a lot of nephews, and she's very girly girl. So I do my girly girl stuff for her. But we get the same things for Audrey every year. We replace, she loves books the most. And so we replace a lot of books that have torn or whatever. And there are so many books. Thankfully, she really does enjoy them. So a lot of people do, but I just want everyone to stop. I'm so ready for the gift giving to be done. I'm so ready for the nieces and nephews to get old enough to where it's not, that's all we do for my family. We just we all give each other's kids stuff. And I am just so ready for it to be done because it's so hard. I try to make a wish list on Amazon of things we need, and literally chew toys that she uses, scarf bibs that we buy constantly are on there. And then, a couple of things too, but we usually end up with a lot of duplicates because I'll tell someone that she likes something, but her interests don't change much. And so, she liked the same Disney characters, 4 or 5 years ago. And so we have all the things of that, and she still likes it. But so it's really hard because usually, typically developing kids, their interests change at every Christmas. They have a new, what they need or want has changed dramatically usually. So yeah, I have no words of wisdom other than I tell people all the time, you don't have to get her anything, but of course, they're going to. And I kind of dread it. I get a lot of texts from my husband's family, leading up to the season. Any ideas for Audrey? So clothes are always good because we can, always use that. But I would give anything for her to give me a wish list. That would be just my dream. So yeah, it's really hard to navigate.
Thank you so much for sharing, Rachel. Yeah, a lot of common challenges. And I'm curious to hear what else has worked or you think you might try. And I think what I'd like to share for myself is that sharing that looking at activities or experiences has helped. So Viva doesn't need any stuff. Most of our kids, let's be honest, don't need any stuff. But focusing on what would light him up, what would he look forward to? So that's kind of what we focused on this year. But also, it's not like the thing under the tree. So there's that. It's always a balance. But anything else that comes up with any of you? Go ahead, Francesca.
Yeah. So one thing that's worked for us, not necessarily Christmas time, but for birthdays, this past birthday party we just did this weekend, and then last year, I specifically put on the birthday invitations, no gifts necessary, just to throw it out there. So, and nobody asked me like, oh, well, what is she like? Because I still want to get her something or anything. Everybody very much like respected that. And then this year, since we were doing like a Christmas themed birthday party, I did a Secret Santa gift exchange for all of the kids. So Emery got one present from the person that had gotten her. So I liked that because she still got a little something, and I was able to say, okay, she likes books and bubbles, and you can, do that, but she's not going to get 13 books or, 13 bubbles or whatever. She's getting one, and then everybody else got a little something too. So that was fun too. So I think specifically saying no gifts necessary or making a way so that you only get one or two things rather than 10 of the same thing or whatever has worked for us. And luckily, I mean, most of our family are the kind of people that are like, here's $50 instead of like a gift or something. Go buy whatever you want or whatever you think she needs. So we've been lucky as far as that goes, because then we don't have to like think about all the things. And Eddie and I get to focus on, all right, she's going to get a couple of toys that are going to be like OT appropriate or speech appropriate or something that are like fun for her, but also maybe help her a little bit as far as like therapy goes. But then we don't have to explain to family and friends like, well, we wanted to get this or want her to have this because this, and this or whatever. So
we got something also this year it's a very practical gift. Like I think most 14-year-olds would not be excited about it. But Levi will be. Like, he'll like it. It's a little techie. And so he'll be into it, but it's also like most people buy it because it's useful. So that'll be good. Okay, let's start to close down. But before we do, I want to take a couple, like some of y'all put some ideas in for the episodes. I'm like, oh, these are worth mentioning. One of the things I thought would be great to kind of open up to the forum is, are there any new traditions or traditions that you have developed over the years that you're finding that you really love? And I know some of you are newer into this than others, but anything that comes to mind in the kind of new traditions or creating what does work for you and then popping up a tradition. Go ahead, Rachel.
Audrey loves the talk of the season. So she's nonverbal, but she uses an AAC device and is very much receptively, like kind of understands. I don't think she understands the concept of like Santa comes the night before Christmas and gives you gifts, because she doesn't care about.
Which is probably like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's like that wouldn't. But
it didn't
Santa,
ever make sense.
right? Santa in books and Santa on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Santa, like the vision of him and the talk of him is very much in her wheelhouse these days, and that is bringing me so much joy, because I have a feeling we're going to get that more and more from her each year, and will like just forever get. Someone told me that one time. They're like, I forever get like Santa and Christmas, and so that's like a joy to take away instead of being sad about it that you get to do it. But she does love, so the decorations and just like the season itself, like the day and the meals and the parties don't mean are challenging and hard, but the actual season. So I decorated really early. One week she was homesick from school. So it was even like, I think it was the week before Thanksgiving, and she got really excited that I got out the tree every morning. It's like on a switch. And so I walk her out of her room, handheld, and she helps me. I make it like, okay, let's go turn on the tree. And so we turn that on every morning. She gets a little advent calendar of little chocolate from Trader Joe's that I buy. And every morning at breakfast, they're just like tiny little, I'm like, okay,
I know
today.
they're hell because people give those to us. I'm like, really? We have to deal with this 25 days in a row? Sorry.
Yeah. So,
see, opposite spectrum.
Yes. But I get to talk to her like today's, December 12th, and we get to have, which one will it be? It's a little Santa hat. But now she's like, oh, cool. It's that little chocolate thing that you give me, like the first, like last year was the first year. And at first she wouldn't even take it because she didn't know that it was chocolate that she could eat. But now she's like, oh yeah, give me. And I just love it because I don't care. Like, it's just tiny, so she can have with her breakfast. No big deal. And then this year, for the second year, we went to a light exhibit at a local zoo, and it's like an animal, like very open, rural, hilly zoo. So it's not like a typical like city one. And so they have a lot of like farm animals and like peacocks and like different types of animals. and they do a whole really cool light up show, and we have to buy tickets for, and it's very reasonably priced. And we knew, she wouldn't last, like, it's a smaller space, which is good. We got the ticket for the first second they opened. We were there and she loved it. And so just trying to soak in any tradition that we actually can do with her, and know that, you know, we don't go to all the parties and we don't do all those things, and we can't do really late night things with her, but the few things that are available, we're going to do. And that's just what works for us. So,
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else want to share anything that they have? Go ahead, Erica.
I have two. We've long since did cookie decorating, which is pretty typical, I think. And I started this tradition when my oldest was probably 2. By the time he was 3, he was able to really be a part of it. Well, Jack, not so much. And so one of the things that I've loved, though, is last year when he was 4 was his first year truly decorating cookies. I knew it was going to be a disaster. I mean, a mess, not a bad disaster. I mean, like a mess I was going to have to clean up. But the pictures of him frosting his cookie, and I'm not kidding you, dumping an entire thing of sprinkles on one cookie while my back was turned, are probably my favorite pictures from last year because of the smile on his face and the pride on his face. And it was like one of those things where, did it go as expected? I mean, yeah, kids make a mess, but this is a Jack mess, and it was worth it. It was just such a fun experience and worth it to all the cleanup and stuff, just to see him being able to take part in something. And then the second one is, this is kind of an odd one. Jack can't help himself when there's gifts around. Even at like other kids' birthday parties, we have to be very careful. He'll just start unwrapping them. And so I quit putting gifts out under the tree about 2 years ago until Christmas Eve. And then after the kids went to bed, all the gifts came out. And I kind of thought that my oldest would be upset because he used to like all the gifts that would come out. I grew up with my mom would wrap every once in a while, and then all of a sudden there'd be some more gifts, and it was kind of fun to see how many. My brother and I are like keeping a tally of who has how many, but it was actually pretty magical for them to walk out Christmas morning and see this mountain of gifts that wasn't there before. And Santa didn't bring them all, of course, but that is something that I've just kept doing because it just makes it easier. And now that I have a toddler, another one, it's actually quite convenient as well. But it's something that I never thought we would do. But now that we do it, it just makes sense because Jack can't help himself. And this is more special anyways, because it's just all of a sudden there's this giant pile of gifts that wasn't there. So those are our 2 traditions, I guess.
So thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a great highlight of when we change something for one child to accommodate them. Oftentimes, and this is what makes inclusion so magical, is like it actually helps everybody. And so that's the beauty that we get to see in that story. So thank you. Again, we're going to wrap up here, but Rachel, you had mentioned this idea of taking a break from social media if it's hard to see. And I was like, that is a good point. Let's just talk a second about that because, I guess it's the common quote, isn't it? Roosevelt said that comparison is the thief of joy. If we listen to my episode on defending gratitude, comparison actually can be valuable. But if we're using it against ourselves to just look at what we don't have, that's probably not super helpful. So do you want to just speak on this a little bit, Rachel?
Yeah. A few years ago, I was in a really rough place just mentally with everything we were dealing with. And I couldn't take it. Every day was just, and I think I went through, it was quite a few months that I was just like, I can't. So I took it off. I took the apps off my phone. I could still sign in to like Facebook because a lot of my support groups and stuff I'm on do have that. So I would still get, those messages if I wanted to. And that was really helpful. Another thing that we've just recently done as a family, and I have to give kudos to my husband because he was the one who brought it up, is for my daughter's actual diagnosis, there's a thread. And about a year ago, it got I'm just in a different place than I was, a few years ago, needing all of that all the time. And it got just sad. Honestly, there was some challenges with a lot of our families and their kiddos. And I stopped wanting to look at it and go on it. And so my husband's like, well, why don't I join? He wasn't on it. So that like, if there's anything important, there's some like studies and foundations and stuff that are happening. So he became a member. So like I barely even check it now. And every once in a while he'll say like, oh, did you see like the comment from so-and-so? You know, like if it's something, and then if I want to read more about it, I can go on. I'm not in that space anymore, thankfully. A lot of thanks to you, Kara, for that. So I'm fine with it this year, and I'm fine with posting, and I'm fine with looking at it. But I think it really can be hard for a lot of people, whether that is not just the disability community, but so many people, is someone who's lost a loved one, someone who's on a weight loss journey. I mean, there's so many things. Check who you follow. If the people that you're following don't bring you joy and you just have these negative feelings all the time, stop following them, stop just for a while. And it's always there. Like I took a break. I suspended it. Like I said, I removed the app from my phone, so I had to physically log in every time, and that kept me from just scrolling. So
I just thought it was a really good reminder. So thank you for sharing the idea, but also just your personal experience of this particular season that you were in. You noticed that this just wasn't the right tool for you at the right time. Because, we all know that there are some good things from the community we can find on all the different social medias. Okay, well, we are going to wrap up. Thank you, each of you, for being here. And I just so appreciate that you took time out of your day to share your stories, to share your hearts, and to share your brilliant ideas. So Merry Christmas, and we'll see y'all on the next episode.
One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.